attending today's session on our industry solution sharing session by Scott and Ferdy on healthcare and life sciences. Just some basic housekeeping. Do try to keep your line mute throughout the session. And if you have any questions, any feedback or comments, you can make use of the chat function. And if you need to get our attention for anything immediate, I will be recording the session and sharing out the recording and the deck over the next 1 to 2 weeks time. So now I'll just hand over to Scott to start off.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here with you this morning. So we'll kick off this morning with a discussion of healthcare. And very specifically, kind of what we see happening in APAC, what's the market, what are the opportunities, and how are we trying to create industry solutions that act as a platform for us to pursue those opportunities. So many of you may not know me. Been with Opentext about a year. My name is Scott Lundstrom. I'm the healthcare industry strategist. Started my career in development, worked as a internet and technology analyst for a firm called AMR Research, was their research vice president and chief technology officer. They were acquired by Gartner Group, so I moved on to IDC, where I founded their healthcare research practice and led that for 13 years. I also managed groups in cloud and AI, and now I'm at Opentext. So, you know, healthcare is experiencing some really phenomenal growth. And if we look at it as a worldwide market, approximately $28 billion in the current year, growing at about 18% over the next 5 years, according to Market and Markets. This data is also validated by information from Gartner Group and from IDC. So a very substantial market growing at a fairly significant rate, an area really worthy of our attention and potentially our investment. So what's driving this? And especially what's driving this in the Asia Pacific market? Every regional market in healthcare is a little different. Certainly the US, Europe, the Nordics, Asia, Japan, all somewhat different in how their healthcare systems are structured. And we see a lot of variety within the Asia Pacific community as well. But there are some really deep-rooted, significant market drivers that are really pushing healthcare to more and more to the forefront of both personal investing, personal thought, and government investing. And federal health systems are among some of our largest customers. We have many opportunities to work in the public health space in both regional and in federal systems, and we've had some success in doing that. Aging populations is something that's driving the growth of healthcare in most markets, and Asia is certainly no exception. In some respects, we've become a victim of our own success. Now, as a result of better healthcare quality and medical interventions, we are living longer lives, and we're living those longer lives with disease, with chronic heart ailments, with diabetes, with obesity, with respiratory issues. And increasingly, the population is getting older. That older population is living longer, and they're consuming more and more healthcare. And this has resulted in increasing investment in public health service, increasing focus on prevention and disease management, and we'll come back and talk more about that as we explore the experience platform for healthcare. And, you know, there's an increasing number of large cloud opportunities. So with each of these market drivers, I've tried to kind of deliver a quote, I think that sums it up, and then a really relevant piece of research that you can pursue on your own if you'd like. Each of these links is somewhat meaty, but they, I think, represent a real opportunity to educate yourself on the marketplace, and they're worth reading if you're interested, if you have major accounts in the healthcare space. So the second one is all about digital healthcare delivery. And certainly over the last few years, we've seen that two kind of parallel but different threads are coming together now. One is all around the delivery of telehealth, the notion that care can be virtual, that we don't need to go see a physician every time we need healthcare. And we may not even need to stay in the hospital to do recovery, and we may not need to go to a hospital to do hospice. There's an increasing number of home services like hospital at home and hospice at home. And these lower cost settings of care typically are much more comfortable for patients. And we see a lot of interest in continuing to develop that. But also then the second thread of personalization. All right, if we're doing this in a digital world, we know who we're interacting with. We know things about them. We can personalize the experience. And this whole notion of personalized digital health, of virtual care to the individual, has really taken off. And it's done it because it's better care at a much lower cost with far fewer resources. And we're going to see more and more systems begin to take advantage of that. And finally, we see, big investments in underlying health system development. That to create a digital health system, first you need a digital health record. Then you need a digital infrastructure for communications, for integration. You need to provide security to that. You need to provide analytics on it. It's a great environment for Opentext, and we have had a lot of success in building the content, the analytics, the communications, the integration that goes around large electronic medical record systems, and in bringing order to the chaos of all of the non-clinical data that exists in health system. And increasingly, it's about data protection, data security, and using data to create that personalized experience. One of the big advantages we have here is most of the regulatory requirements in Asia are based in one way or another on GDPR. While every country has a different standard, and this link from JD Super here really goes into country by country level differences in regulatory. One of the points it makes over and over again is how strongly most Asian region participants have adopted GDPR-like standards. We have a very strong GDPR solution that gets us off to a great head start in many of these accounts. So again, I'd really encourage you to read the links here. In terms of opportunities, it's all about safe and secure communications, intelligent information, and creating that personalized digital experience. So there are some really good selling opportunities here, all right, around security, around this notion that we can integrate information, especially unstructured content, and turn it into data. And then we can use that data to better personalize the digital experience. And that's really what we're doing with the Experience Platform for Healthcare. This is a new solution, and it brings Opentext Experience Platform to healthcare to help meet patient expectations for a personalized healthcare experience. With more patient care moving from in-person to digital, it's important to create consistent and comfortable experiences for patients and providers across this continuum of care. But the data is rarely integrated and accessible enough to drive intelligent, personalized, and efficient digital services. And that affects retention and loyalty. All right, how sticky is our advice? How well does the patient follow their care plan? This has made patient engagement a leadership level issue in healthcare everywhere. Because experience matters in healthcare. All right, our patients want to engage with us in a meaningful way. And to do that, we have to deliver engaging dialogues. We have to meet patients where they are, all right, and personalize communication to the consumer preferences with type and frequency, and to really support the demand for digital interaction from patients. And we have to create empathy and trust. A system that people won't use and that they don't trust doesn't deliver value. So we have to develop this sense of empathy and trust. And that becomes really important because healthcare experience is built on empathy, right? Most of our healthcare customers have a ton of content. What they lack is context to create real data-driven experiences. All right, and there's no empathy without intelligence. So we have to turn that content into intelligence if we're going to use it to fuel experience. Because this individual healthcare experience is complicated, right? It's made up of consumer expectations, convenient and friction-free interactions, the patient experience around how they feel about loyalty and engagement, all right? The personalized content and communications. So we deliver that with Experience Platform for Healthcare. It's a comprehensive solution for individualized personal communications with patients and members. It allows us to engage patients with intelligent, personalized experiences, what we'll often call a care journey. It'll help us create convenient, friction-free digital interactions, allow us to coordinate care across all the participants in this continuum of care, and deliver data-driven services. And, you know, we do that with experiences, through communication, personalization and orchestration, the management of the digital assets, the use of data to target specific customers, and insights generated from those analytics. We bring along a lot of products to do that, and it is a relatively complex solution, but it provides a really unparalleled ability to create these kind of engaging, interactive experiences with patients that allow us to better improve the health. And ultimately, the goal here is to let every patient become their best advocate for their own wellness. So I'll take a breath there. Happy to answer a few questions on healthcare, and then I think we'll move right on to life sciences. I scare everyone away.
Alrighty. Alrighty, should we start in the next session with going to life sciences?
It sounds great, Freddie.
Yep.
Okay, let me just quickly share my screen. Alrighty, can everybody let me know if they can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Well, let's start. Albert Einstein once said that if he had an hour to solve a problem, he'd spend about 55 minutes framing that problem and then 5 minutes to thinking about the solutions. Now, I am not Albert Einstein, and I only have 30 minutes, and I'm going to spend about 25 minutes trying to frame the opportunity for you. And then we can talk about 5 minutes, maybe thinking about not just solutions, but the questions that we might have. As I said, my name is Ferry Steinman. I'm the life sciences industry strategist, the counterpart to Scott, who does healthcare. Started my career many years ago in teaching as a pharmacy technician. Had various roles in the industry itself, worked for Merck, Eli Lilly, Biogen, a few of them. And I made a transition about 7-8 years ago to kind of come into the technology, because that was an area that life sciences is a little bit lagging behind other industries. And I wanted to learn more and see how we can get the industry a lot more focused on the solutions. And since then, I've had a roles at Pegasystems and Frontier, and I joined Opentex about 3 years ago. That said, what's in it for you today? Are we going to do an industry overview from a life sciences perspective? We're We're going to talk a little bit about the trends and the buying actions. And then we're going to look at some industry solutions. And then I would also like to introduce to you today AI, artificial intelligence, the value story behind intelligent capture. I'm very excited to share that as well. And then if we have time, we'll have some questions and some next steps. Righty, so starting with the industry overview. Life sciences is a healthy and growing industry. It's no surprise if you look at the global spend, global revenue, and if you look at just pharma, over the next 2 to 3 years, they expect a compound annual growth of 8%. However, what is exciting about this is that the life sciences application market, now that's talking about technology or software vendors that sells only to life sciences, and the application market is roughly going to be around 16.8 billion by 2025, with a good 5.6% annual or CAGR, compound annual growth. So the good news is we're in a good spot. And this is an industry that is continuously to grow. As we saw with the pandemic, a lot of resources were spent there. So I would like to talk about the industry trends. Now, there's a ton of industry trends, but I think these are the industry drivers that we've seen that is driving the organization to change their behavior. And if you think about it, you heard Scott talk about the patient focus and patient centricity. Obviously, again, there's a continued focus to improve that patient centricity. And I just recall that when I was starting out in the industry in the early 1990s, we were talking about being patient focused, and we still talk about it. So it's something that is continuously on the radar. But I think as patients become more like healthcare consumers, we're going to see that those efforts are definitely being stepped up. Supply chain efficiency, I think we saw that with the pandemic. And then this whole renewed attention to enterprise integration and harmonization is something that we'll talk a little bit about, because we've seen that there's a lot of systems, a lot of technology out there, and for a CIO and for the industry, they're trying to see how can they harmonize, bring that information together to become a lot more smarter. And then also, again, increased focus with AI, big data and analytics. We've seen a significant growth or boost within the artificial intelligence. However, there is some areas there I think that you'll be excited to see how we can help. And then again, as we go into a more digital world, your patients that become more like healthcare empowered consumers, the need for cybersecurity. But all of these drivers kind of come down to two main things for us in the technology world, and that is that our customers are looking to have, they look towards intelligent automation. They're looking to accelerating or adopting the cloud. Now, we know that this industry is a little bit slower compared to other industries, but they are looking to adopt it, and this is the right time. So we're at the right time, right place. Now, as you look at these trends, there are two predictions that I am looking into to say where's the biggest revenue or opportunity is going to come for us in this industry, because we cannot be everything to everybody. There's a lot of areas that we could focus on, but there are two specific areas right now that we can focus on. I talk about decentralized trials, but that's only kind of like a hook. It's the entry point. And if you think about how technology is helping these decentralized trials, remote trial and patient monitoring, the technology has really enabled that, and patients are realizing today that they can continue to do that. Basically stay home and don't need to come in and into clinical research sites or even to a physician's office. With that said, there's already a very challenging environment for clinical trials, trying to recruit patients and all of that data. There's a ton of data that's been collected. And these decentralized trials do access and leverage other channels historically that have not been utilized as much. And because of that, there's a need to be able to bring that information in. And we're going to talk a little bit about how can we bring kind of clinical data intelligence into that. The other area that we look into, there's a lot of ERP, EDI systems that organizations have, and they have to kind of with SAP S/4HANA as one of those key areas, where about 60 to 65% of the industry is using SAP from that perspective, and they need to migrate to a cloud environment. And what we realize is that the business is saying, well, we just need the essential information. And there's a lot of that information that gets migrated with it that actually slows it down. So we need to find ways how we can kind of strip out the redundant or the information that's important for a compliance and a regulatory perspective, put that in an archive, and then only migrate that information as essential to the business. And that's another area that we can help as well. And then there's a future opportunity that we are working right now with the team in creating a new technology, and this is technology transfer. And now this is something that Gartner has come up and said that because of the growth in what we would call the contract manufacturing organizations and CROs, there's a lot of information that gets transferred, not only from your R&D to the manufacturing, but also from one organization to the next. Think about Pfizer. They have a ton of vaccines that needed to be made, and they are looking at Glaxo, Merck, and other companies. And that transfer of knowledge of how they make those vaccines has to happen. And currently, it's a very highly consultative, very labor-intensive process, and there's not really any technology that's automating this and doing it in an intelligent way. And that's one of the areas that we are looking today. And I can tell you now, for some of the customers that we've spoken so far with, to let them know that this is an area that we are developing and looking into, there's a lot of interest there. So watch this space. It's going to be something great coming up in the next 6 to 12 months. Now, industry solutions. We know that the life science organizations are looking to extract value across functional areas, be it from compliant records management to regulatory planning or supply chain management or end-to-end visibility, all the way through. And we also know that they're from a business operations, when you're looking at from a corporate perspective, finance and HR, there's a lot of ways of how they're looking to extract value with their technology and managing that information. Now, with Opentex Life Sciences Solutions, we have a very broad portfolio. We look to integrate that, manage and securely exchange that data across multiple people, systems, and things, to be it from actually all the way from R&D to commercial. So if you look at this kind of figure in front of you here, you'll see that it kind of shows all the functional areas from R&D discovery all the way through commercialization. And in each one of them, Opentex provides solutions. And the solution that I'm going to talk to you about, and there's going to be 2 areas that I'm going to focus on for tonight, is going to be Documentum for Life Sciences. That is our kind of core flagship. It's been around. There's some exciting things happening around that from a SaaS or cloud environment, but wanted to let you know that there are 4 key areas in that functional areas, from R&D, discovery, regulatory, quality, and manufacturing, that we are providing a strong enterprise content management foundation to manage these regulated content. What do I mean by that? Well, we break down those silos, as I said, and we transform how these organizations are accessing, managing, and sharing that regulated content. Now, if you think about it here, we've got Documentum for eTMF, for clinical, we've got R&D, Documentum submissions, store and view, and then also quality manufacturing. Now, that all sits on this platform of Documentum D2 that helps with that process flow and content viewing. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, yes, we need it in a SaaS environment because there's other competitors out there that's providing this in a cloud environment. Well, the good news is that we do have Documentum or Content Cloud for Life Sciences. It's a validated environment with managed services and upgrades. And the good news is that you can utilize these exact same solutions that were on premise, and you can actually now give companies the flexibility with Kubernetes or with containerization to put some of these modules into the cloud environment, be it on a private or a hyperscaler. So kind of great exciting news is provide that, knowing that there are some companies that are still looking for a hybrid model. Now, I said there was going to be 2 areas. The other area that we're going to bring us is this idea of how do we bring intelligence or insights into everything our customers are doing. And the one thing I can tell you now is there is a ton of data being collected. In fact, there's about 2.3 zettabytes. Now, just to wrap your head around that, if you think about a grain of sand being 1 bit, and you were to look at a 2.3 zettabytes, it's enough to cover the whole surface of the Earth with sand 6 feet deep. That's how many data that is. And that's actually going to double every 12 to 18 months. And so there is this need to help customers become more agile, help them deal with this ton of information, and they need to do it intelligently. And you'll see that there's a big move towards AI. But AI is giving some challenges, and I will share with you the approach that I think the industry is taking and where we can actually really add value very quickly for these customers. And that area is kind of like, I'm starting with clinical trials, but I want you to keep an open mind as you look at the other areas in your organization. See if you can find or look for similarities or opportunities where you can actually leverage this exact same go-to-market strategy that we have here beyond just clinical trials. And I'll share with you at the end of this presentation also other areas that we are working on. Clinical trial market is healthy. If you think about it, we had a pandemic, and before the pandemic started, we had about 325,000 clinical trials submitted to clinicaltrial.gov. It is actually, as of the 7th of March this year, there was 407,403. And that's a 30.6% year-over-year growth. Apart from that, the clinical trial market, in terms of its size, it is healthy and it's growing at around 5.7% on the compound annual growth rate. So this is a healthy market. Now, remember I said artificial intelligence is going to be a big thing that the industry is adopting. And even in clinical trials, we've seen it when they did a survey asking senior executives how the AI adoption is within their plans for the organizations. More than half of them said, well, the pandemic obviously stimulated that. But more interesting is that 86% of them basically said that AI is now becoming mainstream technology for them in 2021. And then they also expect that it will continue to go beyond 2021. Now, that's all fantastic, but we do know the clinical trial challenge itself has challenges. And as I mentioned to you, there's these high document volumes and there's these high human touch. And if you think about outside developing countries, especially if you look at Asia Pacific, where there's a lot of clinical trials being conducted, there's still a big component of that being paper-based. And so with that, there's also the variety of documents that gets collected in languages that makes the complexity of this even more so challenging. And then looking at the human touch, there's a lot of people that needs to make sure that everything is verified and it's not as necessarily as automated as what you would think with the technology available. So the good news is we've introduced this, I think that was last year in the first quarter, we introduced a solution from Opentex, which is called Clinical Data Intelligence for Life Sciences. And this is a AI augmented solution from Opentex. You might say, well, there's a lot of AI. What makes this AI special or different? And I'm going to share with you that in a second. But just to kind of give you a very brief overview of what it does, it basically helps you to streamline the data that you collect as a single point. It helps you to easily search and find results. And then it helps you to extract content and value, context and value from the trial documentation. And that actually is going to be the area that we need to pay a little bit of attention to. And then obviously it also supports you from a regulatory audit and reporting requirements as you file that information as well. Now, clinical trials are extremely robust, from protocol design all the way through to report writing. So what is it that we are going to provide to the life sciences organizations with clinical data intelligence for life sciences? Well, we're looking at data collection, data entry, and data cleaning. Now, the reason why we're looking at that is that if you start with good quality data, good classification, your ability to extract quality metadata as you move on through that whole cycle becomes better. Because if you try to apply AI, natural language processing, and text mining with data that's not been classified correctly, you find that that's where a lot of frustration comes in, and you need like a lot of computational linguists to do that with multiple iterations. So the good news is we're going to the source. If we start with good quality data, good metadata, then I think we were able to kind of go down that path of how do we bring intelligence and everything that the industry is doing. So here's the solution. So the solution provides an automated classification and data extraction of that actually helps the organizations to accurately extract metadata and text, and it helps them then to take the exceptions and train itself so that it can load it into any eTMF. Now, why is this important? We know that there are competitors out there, like our orange competitor, a friend called Viva, that have an eTMF system. We are not competing with them. What we're doing is that we're actually helping the organizations to keep what they have, but by introducing clinical data intelligence, we are bringing the intelligence and can plug into that that enriched data that is needed into an eTMF. So we kind of source agnostic or repository agnostic for this. Now, that said, we do have our own eTMF as well, as you saw with Documentum, that we can utilize. Now, what the difference here is that we start with this very simplified classification, but then we apply AI and natural language processing, not as the starting point, but basically more to kind of do an enrichment and to make sure that we are first identify what type of document it is, because if you know what type of document it is, then you are able to extract the right context from it. And that's where we are becoming a lot more smarter versus trying to just apply AI and natural language processes to the whole bolus of information that's coming in clinical trial. And there is 3 products that we are utilizing for this bundle solution. However, think about these 3 products more of as the 3 stages. And I'll show you in a second what I mean by that. But you're starting by selling intelligent capture. Now you might say, well, hold a second, Ferdy. There's a lot of EDC. There's a lot out there. Well, even with EDC being around for more than 20 years, only around 70% of organizations are really utilizing it. And then they don't even have the capabilities of bringing that context and rich data that comes with it. And that's where intelligent capture, I think, by itself as a solution is a great start to extract and categorize the metadata. And then once you have that classified, you apply your content analytics suite from Magellan that really helps you to enrich the data. And once you have rich data, then that is when your scientists, data scientists, and your folks can really get into running these models and algorithms to really extract insights that is helping the industry to recruit patients, as an example, or just to become more innovative in their solutions and in their approach to clinical trials. Now, because of this growing adoption of digital transformation in life sciences, they need to bring intelligence in everything as we do. And as I said to you now multiple times, it's growing fast. There's a lot of volume and variety and value that is sitting in this data, but it's not necessarily being able to extract. In fact, they did a survey by PricewaterhouseCoopers asking the CEOs of pharma and healthcare companies, what keeps you up at night? And they said, well, we have mountains of data, but we've got molehills of intelligence. And so this is an opportunity for us to kind of look into say, okay, why we should consider to start with intelligent capture for every life science organization. And the reason why I say that is that the traditional way of capturing content is no longer valued. In fact, if you look at life sciences, it is ripe for a new technology that can bring that intelligence up front. If you think about the changing landscape, obviously, as I said, intelligent capture from text do provide that superiority from an augmented reality or augmented capturing information. And then also, I think we are strategically and competitively positioned to sell within greenfield, new accounts, but we can also upsell and cross-sell. And I'm going to show you that in a second, why I think this is a great opportunity that you should be interested in hearing more. The ROI is huge. And again, we've got a model that we've built. I'm not going to be able to go through that today, but if you need more, I can show you how this approach will save your companies a lot of money to start with, and then actually getting this cost savings fast, they will be able to see the value as well. And then again, it will also help us to recapture some of those business. If we lost some of our customers to our competitor like Viva, we can actually go back and actually bring the intelligence into that conversations versus trying to get the business back from a Documentum or an ECS perspective. Now, I speak very fast. Is there any questions or comments? How am I doing for time? Let me see here. Looks like it's good. All right.
You have plenty of time, Ferdy.
All right, good. So now I spoke a lot about AI. I talked about the value of intelligent capture. And so here we're going to go and take you through this. This is going to be fast, but it's also going to kind of it's simplistic, but it's actually very basic. But when you see it, you understand why we are so excited about this. Now, we are going to take our customers on what I would call the first step of their journey to become an intelligent, agile organization. Why is that important? A lot of companies start with natural language processing, AI, machine learning, and they realize it takes a lot of time to show and demonstrate value. And a lot of organizations are saying, well, we have to run our regular business, and taking this load on to try and bring AI in there is obviously concerning because it distracts from the business, but not only from a distraction, there's a lot of risk associated. They don't see the benefit or the value as fast as they would like to. And that's actually one of the reasons why AI took so long to be adopted in life sciences. Now, what we are saying is you're going to take a staged approach, and it makes more sense. And you might ask the question, well, why is that making sense? How is that different than anybody else that's trying to do AI and natural language processing? Well, you start with stage one, which is your intelligent capture. And intelligent capture, because I said this is not your regular OCR or EDC, it does have a machine learning capabilities already built into it. And to stand this up, it takes weeks to months. So the bottom line is you're going to see results fast. Once you've classified a document, and this is important, there's over 250 different type of documents in like 5 or 6 different repositories of data that's coming in from a clinical trial. You want to make sure that once you know what type of document you're looking at, you can now take that document and now you can say, well, knowing that I'm looking at a contract or a recruitment site, I now know what information is essential in that document that I need to look for. And this is where the intelligent capture is really helpful because it's already classified that document. But now you can apply machine learning. You can apply that natural language processing to it. And that actually then looks for information. And if it sees something that is not recognizing, then that exceptions gets pulled out. And you train the system to be able to say, next time you see that specific information that you could not clarify or classify, it will learn. So it gets smarter as it gets further down in analyzing and classifying these documents. The great news about it is when you know what you're looking at, you can actually extract the content. So your quality of your metadata immediately goes up. Now, you're going to go beyond just that classification, as I said. You're going to enrich your data. But here's the real beauty. This is where every company wants to start with AI, with natural language processing and deep learning and machine learning, is that this is where they start. However, when they get to start here, they have to spend a lot of time on cleaning, harmonizing, and getting the data ready so that they can apply natural language processing and machine learning and AI. Here's what we're doing is by the time we are here and you get to a data lock in a clinical trial as an example, you can let your data scientists, the smart people, do what they do. They don't have to spend tons of time trying to clean up data, look for missing data, because it's already been captured up front earlier on in the actual cycle when you started with stage one. So the question is, what's in it for you? How are you going to make any sales on this? Well, I think if you take a clinical trial, and 1 million pages, by the way, is extremely conservative. I'll give you an example. We just had Novartis as one of our clients had a backlog of 6 million pages, and that was only for 1 quarter. But let's say, for argument's sake, wanted to just showcase you the value here for you as you look into selling intelligent capture or clinical data intelligence, is that if you take 1 million pages and you sell them just intelligent capture, remember this is fast, you can get them up and running fairly easy. That's a easier sell. And the reason why I say it's an easier sell, because if you start talking about millions in licenses and agreements, then you find that it gets a lot more scrutiny from the senior leadership from the organizations. I've been there. I know about that it's not that easy to go and say, I need $1 million or $2 million for technology. But if you go with $205,000, that typically gets easier through. So you get a quick sale, you get your foot in the door, and now, once you have that classifications and the documents and they're starting to see that results fast and they want to get to that enriched data, that's when you sell them Magellan, the Magellan AI, natural language processing, and the text mining. And that, for 1 million pages, would then provide you an opportunity to sell another 500,000 in licenses and support services and getting your upsell or your cross sale in the organization with this specific client. Now, once they get to that and they have now that enriched quality metadata and they have it cleaned up and everything, now's the opportunity to say, okay, now we can sell you a full Magellan suite with all of the capabilities to run the algorithms, to do the investigations, and to really be able to extract the deep learning that they are looking for. Now, the way you got there is instead of going in with the 1.2 million to kind of start with natural language and AI, processing and AI, you've basically showed them a roadmap to get there, but that roadmap actually shows them quick results that enriches their data. By the time that they get to that data lock and they want to be able to extract value, they are ready for it. And then you've actually grown the business within that account. So not only did you kind of meet your objectives for the immediate, but you have that opportunity to go back and continue to add value to your customers. So wanted to kind of see, is there any actions, reactions, comments on this so far, or let me see if there is. I don't see anybody up there. Okay. And by the way, if I talk too fast, please let me know as well. You can raise your hand or just send me a note there so I can see, because I can speak very fast and I know it's sometimes hard to follow. Okay, take a breath there. All right, so now I've shown you how you can do it with clinical data intelligence. Now, this is the beauty about this approach that I just showed you. It's not just for clinical data intelligence. In fact, think about it, that everywhere you ingest data, content, or information, you can apply this methodology, this 3-step or 3 stages. Another area that we're currently looking into, and that's a kind of a logic way of thinking about it, is that despite the resources that's going into R&D, because we're only looking at clinical, about 200 billion per year, about 85% of that research is wasted due to a lack of data standards and mismanagement of laboratory data. And this is not just, this is from the Lancet Medical Journal. So they know that there's a lot of wastage, there's a lot of information that is lost. Well, why is that? Well, if you look at electronic lab notebooks, now you're going to say to me, well, Ferdy, that's something that's been around forever. I mean, you're not selling everything new. Are you suggesting we sell electronic lab notebooks? Not necessarily, because there are companies out there that actually have multiple electronic lab notebooks and try to consolidate them. And think about it, with our intelligent capture from Opentex, it actually can take any source, be it from a Internet of Things, be it from email, from faxes, from any source, and it can capture that information and bring it in. So it's not just physical snail mail or faxes or like hard copy paperwork. And if you look at electronic lab notebooks, it is a known fact that the scientists, even though some of them have electronic lab notebooks, they still trust paper and pen. In fact, I worked for Eli Lilly in Indianapolis, and they have a warehouse in downtown Indianapolis that has over 20 million pages of R&D lab notebooks sitting there, and they are looking to digitize that. But they know that if they digitize that the technology to apply AI is a significant burden. And this is an opportunity where we can go in and saying, well, not only can we help you to digitize that, but if we do it in an intelligent way, like intelligent capture, as I showed you stage 1, and you get to stage 2, by stage 3, you're going to have a lot deeper and better metadata and quality of the data so that you can start monetizing and extracting that value out of that lab notebooks. And as they're looking to consolidate, again, we can pull it from any source, as I said. It's not just the traditional ways of looking at it. And just to give you just a quick flavor, and I'm getting at the end here, the growing complexity in the biological R&D it continues to grow. There's an unmet medical need worldwide. And what I mean by that is there's about 7,000 ultra rare diseases or rare diseases out there that does not have any treatment. And if you look at the shift currently, in the small molecule research that's happening. They are shifting away from that more to precision medicine or personalized medicine, and with that also newer technology. But there's still, as I said, a lot of antiquated systems. There's a lot of paper, and it's very tedious, and they're prone to errors because of that manual. Now, if the ELN is, we know that there's a knowledge gap because these ELNs don't integrate, and they don't integrate well with other systems. And that actually hinders that whole analysis that they are trying to get to. And then again, there are some of the scientists that, for instance, that cannot take the technology into a room when they do their trials because of the contamination. So they have to use voice to text. Well, again, this is something that we know that with our clinical data intelligence, or in this case, intelligent capture, is something that we can help with that because we are kind of source agnostic from what source the information is coming in. And that's just talking about, there's SAP, S4HANA, think about invoices coming into your manufacturer. Think about upstream, if you need to order the API, which is the active pharmaceutical ingredients, and knowing with the whole pandemic that we had to source new vendors. Well, if you're going to bring on a vendor, they're not necessarily going to be on the same system. And when you bring that information in from them, and you're capturing those invoices, the order management, all of that can be put into with intelligent capture, and that actually helps you to enrich that metadata. I spoke very fast, so if you want to, this deck is going to be available. There's a ton more information that I have in the backup, but wanted to stop here for a second and see, is there any questions or comments with regards to the two kind of areas that I focused on? One, the Documentum for Life Sciences, that is out there because that's our foundation that focuses on those other key functional areas, and then clinical with clinical data intelligence as the first soiree or first entrance into a intelligent, agile organization to make them more intelligent about that information. So is there any questions or comments? Okay. Right, so I'm going to go to next steps. So what should you do? So first and foremost, there's a slide in here that I have all of the clinical data intelligence resources. We're talking about blogs, white papers. There's even a click-through demo. Now, I wasn't sure if there was going to be enough time, but there is that, so you can actually see it in action. We've got in the process of putting together a video. There's also a model that looks at the return on the investment to show them if a company has a certain amount of documents they need to capture with intelligent capture for clinical trials, how that will save them from an FTE, employee per person. So there's a ton of information. I would recommend you go look at that. There's also a life sciences industry page, as well as this clinical data intelligence page for life sciences for the solution. And then for as you go to the life sciences industry page, we actually have the links to all of the Documentum for life sciences solution, as well as the content cloud for life sciences, which is the great way of taking that on-premise and putting it into a validated cloud environment. And then these are some of my colleagues. If you have any questions, we can help you answer. So I think what's it, 10 minutes? Scott, I don't know, can you see if there's any, can take a look here.
Yeah, I've been following the chat, Ferdy. I don't see any questions in there.
Okay, well, I'm not one to take more time than I need to, and I know that it's the start of the folks there in Asia. I don't know if there's any comments from you, Scott, before we hand it back to you.
Yeah, I think, Ferdy, there's a question now about, you know, the availability of SaaS versions and you know, what's managed service versus what's SaaS.
Let me see if I understand the question correctly. So you're talking about what's the difference between a SaaS model with a subscription versus the...
No, the question is more what's available in what model, or what's available as SaaS.
SaaS. So currently, within life sciences, the Documentum for Life Sciences is taking that 4 Documentum modules that we have, and that's available into that. So I think that is kind of the model moving forward. We've also now kind of developed a core for regulatory plans. That's one of those modules that can sit in there as well. But in terms of a true SaaS model, when I think about SaaS model, I think about you have it in a multi-tenant, where ours are not a multi-tenant, and that's important. Scott, the reason why that's important is that if you look at our competitors that says, oh, we are validated cloud, multi-tenant, but we know that as soon as a customer configures or customize any of that SaaS solutions, they need to go through a validation. That in itself takes 9 to 12 months. And so it's really taking the advantage that I think that a lot of people see with that SaaS model, where with our approach, with our Content Cloud for Life Sciences, you can lift, for instance, those modules and Kubernetes or the containers, and actually put it into the cloud. And what we are working with is with Google Cloud and with the hyperscalers, is to put that specific unit into a SaaS cloud environment with a subscription. And that I think is helpful, because sometimes you don't want to take the whole solution for Documentum for Life Sciences, the whole suite, and put it in there. And you're able to pull out the units or the containers that you need. And that gives you that flexibility, as we said. That's one of the key things about it. So it's not a true SaaS in the sense that I would say that think about a SaaS model. You do a subscription, you pay that, and when you upgrade, you get that. I think in life sciences, that SaaS model is not doable in a multi-tenable. Well, it's doable, but it's not without its complications in the life sciences space.
Sure. And then maybe just same question from the healthcare perspective. Experience Platform for Health is available as a managed service in the cloud. It runs on OT2 as well as all of the hyperscaler platforms. And we're an official healthcare partner on AWS. We're also well supported on GCP and Azure. And that's with really robust GDPR support, which is really probably the most important thing we find in the cloud as we look at Asian opportunities. There any other questions? A medical device. So does a life science solution applicable to medical device?
Yes, it is. In fact, I also just kind of a shout out or a plug. We actually did and the sales enablement. We've just created a module for medical devices, and our Documentum for Life Sciences solutions, as well as the clinical data intelligence, though that's a little bit different from a medical devices, the way the clinical trials are run, but the same concept. Anything that gets ingested can be applied. But the short answer is yes. It is applicable to medical devices. In fact, we do have Medtronic, we have Becton Dickinson. There's a few of the organizations that we are selling into that have medical devices, so that it's doable.
Right.
Yes.
And then kind of same thing on the healthcare side in 22.4, we'll release Asset Track and Trace for healthcare. That'll really be broad support for the Opentext IoT platform in the provider setting. So that'll include telehealth, remote health, hospital at home, hospice at home, and we'll manage devices both on the medical center campus as well as in the patient's home.
Yeah, that's a big area if you think about that. I was talking about decentralized trials, and Scott, this is where our area overlaps significantly with the technology, with the telehealth, remote monitoring. And the beauty about this is that between Scott's solutions and the life sciences solutions, there's a good overlap where we can provide from a sponsor upstream, where I look and focus on, and to where Scott is looking downstream from a payer provider perspective. There's a really good overlap for us to work together in that as well.
Sure, yeah, and it's all common IoT platform, and it all runs in training grids, so it's easily implemented, easily adopted.
Yeah. Yeah, I know we're at the end. Just a quick plug. There is actually some white papers that's going to come out in the next 3 to 4 weeks that is around this SAP S/4HANA migration. One of the things that I think really gets me excited about is that knowing that everybody has to do this migration, and we are a preferred partner of SAP for that, is the fact that when we look at a lot of organizations saying, okay, we're going to migrate you into this S/4HANA environment, we realize that a lot of them are not ready. Even if you ask them and say, are you ready for a migration? They're not. This is where I think there's a good collaboration between Opentex Business Network unit and our ECS team, because the business network with the Alloy Liaison acquisition have the capability to do the assessment for that migration and see if a customer is ready to migrate. Why that's important is that actually can upfront show where there's challenges, and actually that can be anticipated and be planned and worked into the solutions and the technology that they needed. That's kind of the business network, kind of the one side of that coin. If you flip it over and then you say, okay, well, how do we work by intelligently moving content from an on-prem, which is the ones that we can archive? I know, for instance, we work with either the technology from SAP with their ILS or ILM technology to strip it out. I kind of call it how do you make it skinny? How do you take the non-essential business information and put that in the archive so you can search and find it? But at the same time, then you move the essential business information into that environment. And because we have extended ECM for SAP on Content Suite, as well as extended ECM on Documentum, it doesn't matter whether the customer or either one of that, but that's a great way for us to collaborate and extract that information.
Hey, Ferdy, so maybe one last question here, just around life science module in terms of how do customers typically buy and deploy? Do they go piece by piece? Do they do the whole system?
Great question. We've seen customers buy the whole 4 modules. There's now more, and then not use all of it. I think the idea here is that the main idea is just to start with that D2 platform so that you have that as the foundation. And then based on where the needs are, I've seen needs around our core, quality and manufacturing. That is actually one of our top sellers, just because it's such a risk-averse and regulated environment that we see that people will buy that module. And as they then expand into the business, there's an opportunity to go to the Smart View. I'm also excited about the core for regulatory plans. That is actually a new solution that actually helps it kind of ties nicely into clinical data intelligence, because it actually helps the companies get ready to submit their new medical entities or licenses for products that they are researching. And so that sets it already up, making sure that they have all of the right information in the format that they need to go submit it to the authorities. So you can, to answer your question, you can buy the modules depending on what area or functional area you focus on. We've seen customer buy the whole solutions or the whole bundle, but not necessarily implement it immediately, and they implement it as go. And then there's some people that only focuses on 1 or 2 areas of those solution bundle.
Cool. Thanks so much, Ferdy. Hey,
Thank
we're
you so much.
right at the end of our time here. Thank you guys so much for having us on your meeting today. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk about our solutions. So thanks so much, Yoke.
Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Ferdy.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time for today's session. So we will be sharing out this recording and presentation deck over the next couple of weeks. So take the time to digest, review them. If you have any comments or thoughts after that, feel free to approach one of us, your local partner manager, for further information.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thanks guys. Bye-bye.